Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher's relationship looked perfect from the outside, but inside it carried a weight neither of them fully understood. Demi was 40 when she married Ashton, who was only 25 at the time. Many people talked about their age difference, but that was not what truly broke them apart. On their 6th wedding anniversary in September 2011, Demi woke up and saw a Google alert that crushed her completely. The headline said Ashton had spent the night with a 22-year-old woman in San Diego. Her heart dropped. She confronted him immediately, expecting honesty or an apology, but what he said hurt her even more. He used something private and sensitive from their marriage to justify cheating. That explanation cut deeper than the affair itself. It shook her confidence and brought up the painful wounds she had carried since childhood. Demi Moore was born on November 11, 1962, in Roswell, New Mexico. From the moment she entered the world, nothing felt stable around her. Her mother, Virginia, was only 18 and already separated from Demi's biological father, an Air Force man named Charles Harmon Sr. Because of that, Demi grew up without a real father, and his absence stayed in her heart like a quiet ache. Her mother tried to move on by marrying a man named Dan Ginn, hoping he could bring stability to their lives. Instead, the chaos only continued. Money was always short, the new marriage was filled with arguments, and Demi's father figure kept disappearing and reappearing in confusing ways. She later said that growing up without a father shaped how she saw herself and how she loved others. That early emptiness, that sense of being unprotected, became a pattern that followed her into all her future relationships. After Virginia married Dan, life turned into constant instability. Dan's printing jobs were never stable, and he often drank heavily. Because of that, the family moved more than 30 times before Demi reached the age of 15. They lived in New Mexico, Washington, and California, sometimes staying in a place just long enough to unpack before moving again. Demi never had a school where she felt she belonged. She never stayed long enough to form real friendships. Debt collectors showed up at their door, her parents fought loudly, and her mother's arrests forced them to keep running from one town to another. Home stopped feeling like a safe place and became something only other families had. Demi grew up always waiting for the next crisis, the next move, the next argument. She said she felt like a visitor in her own life, never grounded, never steady. Inside the house, things were even worse. Dan's drinking fueled explosive fights with her mother. Demi and her half-brother Morgan often hid in their room while plates shattered and doors slammed. They were afraid to fall asleep because they didn't know when the next outburst would begin. One of the darkest moments came when her mother's drug use spiraled so badly that Demi had to reach into her mother's throat and pull out pills after a suicide attempt. Demi was just a child, but that night forced her to act like an adult. She later said that this was the moment her childhood truly ended. All the pain, noise, and fear stayed with her long after she moved out. When Demi was 6, her grandmother tried to help by taking her in for a short time in Roswell. For a brief moment, Demi experienced something close to peace. But this calm didn't last. She was soon pulled back into her parents' chaos. By age 12, her mother was arrested for drug possession. That arrest was one of many. Over the years, her mother faced charges for drunk driving, drug offenses, and even arson. These repeated crises taught Demi that she had to rely on herself because no one else could be trusted. The police visits, the lawyers, the sudden moves, they all carved a deep sense of abandonment inside her. She kept asking herself why her life was so unstable and why the people who were supposed to protect her caused so much pain. The deepest wound came when Demi was 18. Her stepfather Dan died by suicide on October 20, 1980, a year after divorcing her mother. Demi had felt anger toward him for years because of his drinking and the constant moves, yet she also depended on him emotionally. Losing him brought a confusing mix of guilt, grief, and relief that she didn't know how to handle. In her memoir, she said his death reopened every childhood wound and pushed her into struggles with addiction and identity that followed her into adulthood. But one of the most traumatic experiences happened when she was only 15. Demi said she was raped by their 49-year-old landlord, Basil Demis. He had a key to their apartment and used it to enter one night. After assaulting her, he taunted her by saying her mother had taken $500 from him in exchange for access to Demi. Her mother denied this later, but the pain of that accusation stayed with Demi forever. She never reported the assault and carried the guilt silently. Basil Demis died in 1997, and nothing was ever proven in court, leaving Demi with a wound that never received justice. By the time she turned 16, home life had become unbearable. Her mother had been arrested several times and once even pushed Demi out of a moving car during a fight. Demi finally dropped out of Fairfax High School and turned to modeling as a way to escape. She lied about her age and appeared on a magazine cover in January 1981 while still just a teenager. Modeling gave her a bit of control and a taste of independence. For the first time, she felt she had a path that didn't depend on her unstable family. But even this new life had challenges, and stability kept slipping through her fingers. At 18, Demi married musician Freddie Moore and stepped into the Los Angeles punk scene. She even took his last name professionally before the wedding because she wanted a new identity. She drank heavily and used drugs to numb her emotions. She later admitted that she had cheated on Freddie the night before the wedding, calling it a moment of self-destruction she didn't fully understand. Their marriage lasted 4 years, ending in 1985, but it introduced her to acting circles and eventually helped launch her career. Her first important role came in 1982 when she joined the soap opera General Hospital. What most people didn't know was that Demi had undiagnosed dyslexia. The words on the script looked like they moved around on the page. Directors sometimes thought she was unprepared, but the truth was she could barely read the lines. She nearly quit several times but forced herself to find new ways to memorize scripts. Over time she became stronger, proving to herself that she could survive challenges that others never saw. Her film career slowly grew, and she appeared in movies like Choices in 1981. But everything changed in 1985 when she played Jules in St. Elmo's Fire. The movie became a symbol of the Brat Pack era, and people were struck by how real and emotional her performance felt. Demi knew how to show vulnerability because she had lived through so much pain and instability. The film earned $18 million, and her career took off. In 1986, she starred in About Last Night, a romantic drama that showed a raw and honest look at relationships. Her performance stirred controversy for its boldness, and she even received a Razzie nomination. But audiences felt the realness in her acting, and the film pushed her further into the spotlight. Around this time, she was also dealing with bulimia. She fainted on set more than once, pushed to extremes by Hollywood's expectations. She realized that fame came with a heavy price. In 1990, she starred in Ghost, the film that made her an international star. The movie earned over $218 million and became a cultural phenomenon, especially the famous pottery scene with Patrick Swayze. The story of love and loss touched millions of people. But it also made Hollywood see her as the sad, emotional woman from the movie, a role she did not want to be trapped in. To break away from that image, she took a role in Nothing But Trouble in 1991. The movie was chaotic during filming and did poorly at the box office. She also starred in Moral Thoughts, a darker film that followed her home emotionally. She worked with Bruce Willis during this time, and their connection grew. She went on to appear in The Butcher's Wife, a charming but difficult film because of constant script changes. In 1992, she played a strong military lawyer in A Few Good Men. The movie earned over $243 million, and her performance showed she could be powerful and commanding. Even while people praised her, she still felt enormous pressure about her appearance, something Hollywood never let her escape. In 1993, she took on one of her most talked-about roles in Indecent Proposal. The story shocked audiences and sparked debates everywhere. Demi became the highest-paid actress at the time, earning over $12 million. The success proved her power, but it also brought judgment and criticism. She pushed boundaries again in 1994 with Disclosure, playing a powerful executive who harasses her male employee. The movie made $214 million and showed that she was not afraid to take roles that made people uncomfortable. In 1995, she starred in Now and Then, a nostalgic film she also helped produce. It became a beloved classic for many viewers. Through all these successes, the wounds from her childhood, the pain from her marriage to Ashton, and the constant pressure of fame remained heavy on her. Her life was shaped by trauma, survival, and strength, and every step of her journey reflected the long path she had walked from chaos toward rebuilding herself. On set, the younger cast, including Christina Ricci and Rosie O'Donnell, built friendships that lasted long after filming ended. For Demi, the project showed a different kind of strength, the power of helping shape a film from behind the scenes. But success in Hollywood never stays steady. The Scarlet Letter in 1995 became a major setback. Demi played Hester Prynne in a big-budget adaptation filled with intense romantic scenes. The movie cost around $50 million but earned only about $20 million. Critics tore it apart, and she won a Razzie Award for Worst Actress. The same industry that had celebrated her record-breaking salaries suddenly treated her as a symbol of bad taste. Even so, she remained one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood. In 1996, she voiced Esmeralda in Disney's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Disney was unsure at first because her voice was deeper and rougher than past Disney heroines, but that quality made Esmeralda feel real. Demi even recorded some songs while struggling with a throat injury. Working with Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz, she helped bring songs like God Help the Outcasts to life. The movie earned more than $325 million and pushed Disney toward more complex, imperfect female characters. That same year, she starred in Striptease, playing Erin Grant, a mother who becomes an exotic dancer to fight for custody of her daughter. Demi earned $12.5 million for the role, making her Hollywood's highest-paid actress. She trained with real strippers and even performed live during filming. The movie sparked moral outrage and even death threats. Her real daughter, Rumor Willis, played her on-screen child, giving the role extra emotional weight. The film made over $113 million, but critics dismissed it, ignoring how much work she put into it. The world praised her huge salary, then punished her for the movie she made to earn it. In 1997, she took on one of her most demanding roles, G.I. Jane. Demi shaved her head and trained like a real soldier to play Lieutenant Jordan O'Neill, the first woman to attempt a Navy-style special operations program. She trained under actual Navy SEALs, often doing around 1,000 push-ups a day. Ridley Scott once demanded she do 1,000 push-ups straight. She finished in about 3 hours. She ruptured an eardrum during an underwater scene and suffered chronic back pain. The movie earned about $112 million and made her one of the few women to lead a tough military action film. But the role left real damage on her body. Around this time, while filming The Juror in 1996, Demi's private struggles grew more serious. She played Annie Laird, a juror threatened by a killer played by Alec Baldwin. Many of her panic scenes were improvised because she was under immense personal pressure. After the extreme training for G.I. Jane and other roles, she became dependent on prescription painkillers. She later admitted she barely remembered parts of the filming. Critics saw real fear in her performance, but behind the scenes, she was slipping into addiction and would spend years trying to recover. Meanwhile, Demi was gaining power behind the camera. In 1999, she made a cameo as herself in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, but she was also a co-producer through her company, Moving Pictures. She fought for fair compensation, refusing a tiny fee just because her role was small. The movie made around $312 million, and her negotiating set an example: women could demand proper pay, even for small parts. In 2000, she starred in Passion of Mind, playing 2 different women living in Paris and New York. She had to act opposite her own pre-recorded movements in complex split-screen scenes. She drew from her own experiences with dyslexia and childhood pain. The movie only earned around $3 to $6 million on a $20 million budget, but it showed she was still willing to take risky, emotional roles. At the same time, her personal life was shifting. She married Bruce Willis in 1987, and they had 3 daughters, Rumor in 1988, Scout in 1991, and Tallulah in 1994. publicly, they looked like a Hollywood power couple. Privately, pressure built. Willis wanted her to focus more on family, while she kept taking demanding roles that required months away. His gambling, especially poker, added more tension. They divorced in 2000, calling it mutual, and worked to co-parent peacefully. After her divorce and the death of her mother, Demi stepped back from acting. She struggled with alcohol again and reduced her producing work to focus on healing and raising her daughters. In 2003, she returned with Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, playing Madison Lee. She trained hard for the fight scenes and wire work, all while quietly grieving a miscarriage she had suffered shortly before filming. The movie did well, but the public focused mainly on her body, especially the famous bikini scene. She later said she felt emotionally flat afterward, as if the public attention hit the same place as her grief. After the movie, she disappeared from Hollywood for almost 15 years. She spent the time focusing on her daughters, activism, especially against human trafficking, and producing. But she also struggled again with addiction and ended up in rehab in 2012 after a seizure at a party. Her return began slowly. In 2008, she starred in Flawless, practicing a British accent despite dyslexia making memorization difficult. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it showed she still had the drive to rebuild. In 2011, she voiced a character in Happy Feet 2, but that same year, photos emerged of her looking painfully thin. Rumors spread about anorexia. The pressure of Hollywood beauty standards, her divorce from Ashton Kutcher, and her attempt at a comeback all collided. She later spoke publicly about her eating disorders, helping open conversations about body image. Also in 2011, she appeared in Margin Call, delivering one of her best performances. She filmed the famous boardroom scene in a single day with no time to rehearse. While critics praised her acting, she was privately struggling to stay emotionally stable. In 2017, she surprised audiences with a cameo in Rough Night, improvising jokes at age 55 while still dealing with lifelong body dysmorphia, a struggle dating back to striptease. Her openness about her insecurities later helped many actors feel understood. Then came her relationship with Ashton Kutcher. They met in 2003 at a dinner party. She was 40, he was 25. They connected instantly, talking for hours about sobriety and second chances. Weeks later, they were spotted on a date in Miami with Sean Combs and Kim Porter. People joked about the age gap, but they ignored it. Ashton made her feel safe during a painful rebuilding period in her life. They married in 2005, and Bruce Willis even attended the wedding, supporting their blended family. But before the marriage, they suffered a devastating loss. In 2004, Demi became pregnant with a baby girl they planned to name Chaplin Ray. She miscarried at 6 months. The grief consumed her. She blamed herself, began drinking heavily again, and her relationship with her daughters became strained. Ashton once mentioned a fantasy about a threesome. Trying to hold on to him, she agreed. She later said the experience gave her a false sense of control. It blurred boundaries and hurt their marriage. After the miscarriage, they tried IUI and IVF, but nothing worked. Demi grew obsessed with trying to conceive again. Her daughters became frustrated. Her self-worth dropped. By 2010, she was abusing alcohol and Vicodin again. Ashton's rising fame from 2.5 Men added more pressure. They founded Thorn together, an organization fighting online child exploitation, and appeared united in public. But privately, Demi felt increasingly insecure. Kutcher often made jokes about unflattering photos of her, which hurt her confidence. In September 2011, on their 6th wedding anniversary, Demi woke up to a Google alert saying Ashton had cheated with a 22-year-old named Sarah Leal in a San Diego hotel. The flirtatious lines he supposedly used on Sarah were the same ones he once whispered to Demi. The fact it happened on their anniversary made it worse. When she confronted him, he admitted the affair. But then he brought up their past threesomes, saying they made their marriage feel more open. Demi later wrote that this explanation felt manipulative, as if he was using something they once shared to justify betrayal. It broke her trust completely. In November 2011, she filed for divorce. But during early 2012, while she was finishing work connected to Charlie's Angels, she learned of another affair. The second betrayal confirmed for her that the marriage had been broken for a long time. The divorce dragged on until 2013. By the end, she felt emotionally empty. After everything, Demi entered rehab again in 2012. She said it was for codependency and anorexia, but the truth was simpler: she was heartbroken. Years of betrayal shattered her confidence. Friends said she isolated herself, unable to trust others or herself. Rehab became a lifeline where she could start rebuilding her identity. In 2019, she finally told the full story in her memoir Inside Out.